Here in New York, anti-Israel protesters storming the streets of the city in an attempt to block the Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade yesterday, leading to mass arrests.
Free Palestine, America! I know we are ass. You think I don't know where we are? Celebrate
thousands of innocent children.
Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
David Webb is a Fox News contributor and host of Reality Check with David Webb on Fox Nation. He joins us now. David, the tolerant left trying to ruin a parade, which is really for children.
Yeah. But it's nice to see the cops making arrests. Now let's see if they actually keep them in jail. Why are their faces always covered? Doesn't that make it harder to yell free Palestine? Look, I'm using a bit of sarcasm here, but here's the sad truth. The left is either disconnected or committed or both. They're not going to stop. They've been rejected, their policies, their attacks on America, on our allies, on people. They have been rejected by the American people in this last election, and now they're doubling and tripling down. The sad part is they are not interested in we've lost, now how do we come around? They're interested in how we drag America further into this. You've got to deconstruct it from the inside.
But are they not reading the tea leaves? The country's not there. Maybe when the left was in power, you had a little bit more leeway, but Donald Trump is coming into office. Republicans have the House, the Senate, and the presidency. They also have a majority on the Supreme Court. Your feelings toward the world are definitely not in vogue right now.
Yeah, well, what's also back is Constitution, law and order. Now, cities will have to make their decisions, but they will have to comply because they get money from the federal government. At some point, that leverage, right? You were just talking with Brian about tariffs as a leverage, as a negotiating tool. It's going to be very similar with these cities. You have got to protect your citizens. You've got to protect a parade. You have a right to protest. I'm somebody who organized Tea Party protests for tens of thousands of people in New York. I did it right. I did it the correct way, and the protest carried on. That's not what they're doing. They want to disrupt.
I have an answer to your question about the masks. I'm told that the center of parades is where COVID really takes hold, especially with Minnie Mouse. She was patient zero. President Biden sharing a grim Thanksgiving message to journalists. Listen to this.
You all have a very tough job, and I'm not being solicitous. A really tough job. You turn on the television, you don't see a lot of good news. Even the stuff that is good news doesn't seem to sell very well. And now you have, I forget what the number is, but an exceedingly small number of people watching mainstream television and reading the newspapers.
So much to unpack there. First, no good news. I mean, I guess it depends on your perspective on life, but is that your read, David Webb, on the last 3 weeks since November 5th? No good news?
First of all, you won't have to turn the teleprompter around anymore to understand the President of the United States. You're going to be able to hear him say exactly what he says, that being Donald Trump. Look, Joe Biden is bitter. And he always has been. He wanted this title. He wanted this job. He's failed. And that rejection I'm talking about, they lost not only the Electoral College massively, they lost the popular vote. And what's not being talked about a lot, but when you start looking at the state legislatures and local races, a lot more wins by people who I'll put them in the non-leftist category. Democrats who've said, I've had enough. People who've said this is not the way we want America to go. So they've been rejected. And as far as the journalists, let me tell you something. Journalists have had access to Donald Trump, well, since Donald Trump's been a public figure. He doesn't run from you. He'll show up in the briefing room more likely, more times than probably his own staff. Like, come on, this is a guy who's going to talk to you. And as far as the mainstream media, Joe Biden can attack all he wants, but maybe you ought to put a mirror up to Joy Reid and all of the others at MSNBC, because they're not being spun off because they're so successful. They're being spun off because they failed to carry water and win, and their viewership, same thing as the other networks, has gone down significantly. Where's Fox News?
At the top.
Decades later, consistently.
Mostly thanks to you, David Webb. And so we have one more that we want to get on with you. A shocking new report showing that the Biden administration's education enforcement targeted Christian and career colleges more than private and public schools. Look, we all know this ends Inauguration Day when Trump takes over the Department of Education. But what's your reaction to this?
Not unusual. Remember the FBI in the Richmond office targeting Catholics, going after people. Remember Barack Obama? Those Bible clingers, you cling to your beliefs and your guns. This is the left. They're trying to turn this where the government is your new religion. The ideology's there. The fact is they got to watch the language that they've changed in DOE, and they've got a lot of work to do to clean that up.
David Webb, thank you so much for coming on. Black Friday, obviously you had a day yesterday watching the Giants lose, and that made you sad. We appreciate you coming in here.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.